Yo, what is going on, everybody? Welcome back. It's Lex, and today we're going to be watching a kind of documentary about why Theo Von shouldn't be here. You know, Theo Von has been like a massive podcast guy. If you guys have seen him in his early days as well, I used to watch podcast back in the day before he, blew up and became this massive hit sensation that everybody quotes, and you almost like really recognizable at this point. So we'll see what's going on with this video, and let's check it out.
I felt like nobody ever saw me. Like, man, if somebody would have just sat and looked at me, would I even have done this job?
Please welcome the very funny Theo Von.
Today we're joined by Theo Von.
Theo Von.
Theo Von.
And I'm Theo Von.
He actually might be one of the funniest people we've ever met.
You want to
Dude, I didn't know anything about Theo Von. The only freaking place I thought I saw Theo Von was like the Church of What's Happening Now, which is like another podcast from Joey Diaz, if you guys have heard of him. But like, I've only seen Theo Von like back in the day like that. And I just, follow his career. And man, what a freaking hilarious guy.
funniest guys in the country. I really think.
Thanks, man. I appreciate that. This gentleman had half a limb. Or he said he was. So he could have been faking it.
CGI or something.
I don't know what his name was.
Oh my god. See, that's the thing about Theo, is that he's able to just kind of morph these stories as he has, if they're even real or not. Nobody even knows if they're real or not, or they're just part of like, his whole kind of like catalog in his brain that he creates. But it's just so funny how he's able to like explain things the way he does. Like, if I had the ability to like explain like stories in the way he does, I don't know, man. That would be awesome.
My son's a big fan of yours, Baron.
Really, Baron is?
Yeah.
I think I needed everybody in the world to love me just because I wanted to get my mother to love me. It's like, I just figured eventually it will get back to her.
That's so true, dude. The thing about him is that he is like this like comedy guy where he kind of gives you this like, he kind of softens the blow of who he is with comedy, but he's able to kind of dig deep and reveal a lot of like intimate things about himself and reveal things that other people, can relate to. That's why I feel like a lot of people are able to connect with him, because he kind of is that, every guy or every person who's been down and like in life or has gone through struggles in life. He's able to kind of, show himself out there and be vulnerable like that, where most kind of podcasts or most people don't really like, or celebrities don't have that ability to. They kind of play this like facade, right?
Louisiana, 1980. Theo Von is born into an unusual household.
My father was real old when I was born. You guys know that. My dad was born in 1910. My dad was 70 when I was born. My dad was 70 when I was born, right? So he was an old man. So by the time I got to know
70,
him, like when I
brother.
was 7 or 8 years old, he's 77, 78. And it was just weird because my dad didn't have any money. Like, I could understand a woman making love to an older man who has, is affluent.
Yeah.
But
she just couldn't find
who's
anybody?
going to make love to an old man who has no
Hey,
money?
there's
My
a,
dad would just
hey, there's a lot of women out there who, who into them old heads.
sleep all the time and his eyes would start leaking. My dad was always just resting everywhere.
Resting.
His
Oh yeah,
friends
my dad was nowhere to be seen.
would come over and they would rest. We'd come home and my mom would, she'd be like, you need to go spend time with your dad. I'm like, why? She'd be like, because he's gonna die.
Oh
And
my
we'd be like,
god.
well, fine then. I hope he does die.
Wait, so how old was he when he passed?
He was 86.
86. Well, you were 16.
But I've also always been a little bit angry.
86?
at him. I
Jesus
didn't
Christ.
realize it. I was always angry because I didn't know him very well. I was 16 when he passed away and he was 86. I was angry because I didn't know him, because he didn't know me. I remember we would walk to church sometimes and I would, I'd make sure that the leaves were off of the sidewalk, and I would make sure that that my dad knew how the sidewalk was so that we could walk together, But I remember his skin on his hands was so old that sometimes it would make me kind of sad sometimes, when he touched me, because he wasn't the way that I wanted him to be. Your dad comes
That
to
actually
show
kinda
and tell,
sucks.
and he's like, I was born in 1910, that's a weird time for the class.
Yes.
I really judged him. I really judged him for being so
It's
old.
crazy, like, as someone who had an absent father, right? And who didn't really know him at all or know anything about him, versus somebody who had a father. It's crazy to see his like level of like kind of, shame about it, right? His shame was like, yes, I did have a father, but he was an older guy. He was kind of embarrassed of who he was, It's kind of interesting to see those kind of both dynamics play out, where somebody who like me who has an absent father feels shame about not having that male role model, or not having that person in their life who's like, their parent, right? Every parent should be there. So it's interesting to see that there's like still shame in the parents, right? Whether they're absent or whether they're.
Other kids would make fun of him, and then I kind of made fun of him. I was ashamed of my dad a lot, I think because of his age, and so I think for a while I had some issues with that. Just how I would kind of like, I would introduce him to people as my grandfather. Just little things that it's like, I start to think, well, I wonder how that affected him, or I don't know. I would make the excuse, well, he shouldn't have had a kid when he was that old, What was he thinking? Well, that's true. But if he doesn't have that, I don't exist. There's validity there to that argument, but he gave me my existence, however way it happened. He really gave me the most important gift, which is my experience of the world. I think maybe I was afraid to get to know him because I knew he was going to pass away. So it was probably like safer to not get to know him, I think I could have been a better.
It's so cool. See, this is the thing about Theo, is that he has the ability to reflect a lot. And that is like someone who always thinks, or always is in their mind, or, I feel like you're taught to do that. But the fact that he's able to kind of, extract those feelings and emotions out of him is what really makes Theo Von. I think, at least that's how I connect with him. The ability to kind of just, extract your vulnerabilities, express them out the way he does, and, just kind of lay yourself on just for everyone to see, So it's interesting to see how much, he as a person, you can really, really benefit off of, especially someone who doesn't ever reflect. There's a lot of people out there who don't just look at themselves in the mirror and kind of analyze themselves, and ask the reason, or ask the question, why? Why am I the way I am? What are the reasons that cause this? And how do I feel about these things? That's what I find interesting.
I maybe could have been a better son to him, and I know the circumstances weren't ideal, but I just maybe could have been a better son to him sometimes, I wish somebody had taught me to have more pride in my family when I was young, because I didn't know.
As a teenager, Theo was now left with only his mother, and unfortunately, his troubles were far from over.
I've always had a lot of anger against my mother. I didn't really know my dad that good, so my mother's the only parent left. I get angry sometimes because she missed out on me. That's what I feel like.
Yeah.
She missed out on whoever I was, or whatever was unique about me or not unique, or whatever my feelings were. She missed out on all of it. Always had a tough time hearing my mother. I felt like I wanted my mom to laugh or something when I was young, and I couldn't get her to laugh.
Yeah.
Because I remember my dad laughing all the time, and then I don't remember my mother having that at all. And I think there was always this stress, that she was stressed and I couldn't do anything. She was just stressed out, I think. And my sister was sick her whole life. She was born with a liver deficiency, and she ended up getting a liver transplant. So most of my mom's affection really went towards her, I think. Yeah. And my dad's too, really. So there was never a chance for anybody even to listen or to be heard. There was never even any piece of space to think or to feel. There was no space for that. My mom did.
Dude, living in the chaotic home is so freaking difficult. It really is. My childhood, my upbringing was so chaotic. I learned these defense mechanisms, all this fucking bullshit to deal with all the crap that was going around in my house, and it kind of resurfaces later down the road. Even right now in my life, right? But it sucks, dude. I can only imagine him trying to get the attention of his mom. It's kind of sad that he's trying to make his mom. He's even trying to control that at such a young age. I'm trying to make my mom feel better when I should, as a child, be made feel better from my mom. Fuck, that sucks.
Didn't speak to me in a way that was loving first, that let me know I could be loved, and instead there was this other tone that made me unsure how I was felt towards. Sometimes I felt so hurt as a kid. I hold on to that hurt because sometimes it's the only relationship I had with my mother was that I was angry at her. My mom never looked at me very much, or she just worked all she was gone, and my dad wasn't around. So yeah, I think I felt like nobody ever saw me, nobody that I care about or anything even knows who I am,
Yeah.
I would give anything, I think as a child, I'd give anything for somebody to just look at me.
You go to high school.
Went to high school, and then I got emancipated when I was 14. I just had a tough time growing up with my mom, and she was just hectic. Mom
What do you mean
delivered.
emancipated? Like you're on your own?
Yeah.
And then where did you go?
And then I went to live with friends. I would take a backpack to school every day, and I would stay with whoever let me stay, man. And then
Bro, is that Barack Obama? What the hell? You just stay with Barack, and then they
I got a family that let me come
Oh my
stay with them
God.
for literally about 3 or 4 years.
With no clear direction in life, Theo went on to attend university, and it was there where he stumbled upon a life-changing opportunity.
Today's a different kind of day for Theo. My father died a couple years ago.
Sorry to hear that.
At the age of 14, my mother emancipated me, like legally emancipated me. It's gonna be hard on me in the future, I think, because I don't really know how to care about somebody.
So I was on a show called
That
Road
sucks.
Rules, right? It was like a reality television show. Do you
Dude,
remember?
imagine being 14 and being thrown out in the world. I would literally just freak. You know what? I was actually. Okay, I didn't like leave home. I mean, I wasn't thrown out, right? I felt like I was pushed out at 14. You know, I turned 15, 16, you know, had my first child at that age. So I can only imagine what it is to just kind of like be thrown into adulthood and not know, especially not having any sense of role models in my fucking life. Like, it's insane.
For a show like
kind of remember that.
people playing games and stuff, and they used to have a show called Real World.
At the time, Road Rules was an extremely popular TV show that featured a group of strangers living together in an RV while facing various challenges along the way.
Each year, MTV or Bunham Murray Productions had auditions at different campuses around the country. They picked 6 campuses. I was just walking across campus at college, and I was just like really depressed, and they had like auditions. I was walking across campus, and they had auditions for Real World and Road Rules, and I loved the shows, and I went in. And I think I'd had a wealth of stories growing up to tell them when I went into audition that were like, this guy would be a good candidate. And then one day they called and said, hey, do you want to go on Road Rules? Do you want to go on this trip?
Yeah.
And it was crazy because at the time, so many people watched the show.
Right.
MTV was
huge.
only, MTV was huge.
Huge back then.
And MTV was at its height. Like the show got like 14 million views, watches a week. It was our YouTube. It was everything all in one channel, you know. And I remember thinking, man, this is gonna be.
Dude, MTV used to be lit back in the days. Even like when I was younger, like I don't know how it was in the 90s, but it was still lit. Like what was on MTV? Jersey Shore, right? There was a bunch of things. Oh, Robin Big, one of my favorite freaking Fantasy Factory, dude. Insane.
Just a life change,
Yeah.
you know. I remember going to a basketball game that day and thinking, man, next year, if I do that show, next year half these kids would know who I was
Yeah.
when I came in here.
Landing a spot on one of the most popular TV shows at the time, Theo believed that this was his big break. However, little did he know, things wouldn't quite turn out as expected.
Mm-hmm.
And then when I went into the show and went back to LSU, and it was a nightmare.
Oh, really?
People were so mean. People would throw shit at me all the
man.
time.
Holy shit.
Make fun of me, call me all kind of names. Back in Louisiana, people would like try to fight me at bars, and guys would like, I remember people throwing
Why?
bottles at
Jealousy?
me, and like it just got crazy. One time I was at a bar, I was waiting to go into a bar, and some kid threw a bottle, and it whizzed right by my head and shattered on this bar right next to me.
Out of jealousy, right? Probably.
I guess.
They get drunk. Fuck this guy.
Yeah.
He's on TV and.
They call me the N-word too, and I'm like,
That's it.
what? You know? Like, I mean, I'm Polish Nicaraguan.
yeah.
You know? Yeah.
To Theo's surprise, being on Road Rules actually caused people to dislike him, as they saw him as just some kid with no talent. But you see, the feeling
is
of
hate.
being disliked wasn't unfamiliar to Theo.
I just always thought people just didn't like me. Ever since I was young, it just, something was wrong with me. I had this ism where I thought people just didn't like me, and it just, there was nothing I could ever do in a moment to feel any different. I didn't know anything about myself, how to feel good about myself, so the only way I knew to feel good was if I could make you like me. I only decided how I felt based on how you felt about me.
Theo really had
Dude, that is so true, dude. Like that people pleaser syndrome shit, like morphing yourself or like doing something like for people to like kind of notice you, or like, I mean, he said that about his mother, right? He wanted her to notice him, or at least smile, or have some sort of reaction towards him. Like that is so real. Like you just want people to accept you for who you are, and yet you're just getting pushed and pushed and pushed away. It sucks. That I could say I go through that.
had 2 options. He could either let the hate and negativity define who he was, or he could prove every single doubter wrong.
I think that's why I needed laughter, because it was like, there's no way somebody could be laughing and hate me at the same time. There's no way they could be laughing and shaking and making this like joyous sound and not like me at the same time. So that's why I needed it. Because I'd been part of something that people were like, oh no, we don't like this.
Right.
I wanted to say, okay, well, didn't even have a chance so I was making really any choices in my life. I was 19, and then now you guys are gonna say, oh, this guy isn't talented or this guy couldn't be an entertainer. And people were like, these kids don't have any talent. So I was like, oh, I don't have any talent? I was like, I'm gonna take the hardest job you have, which you say is stand-up comedy, and I'm gonna fucking do
No Damn, way.
If
they hate
something
fielding.
in the world isn't gonna see me, then I'm gonna take the hardest thing the world has, supposedly, which is stand-up comedy, and I'm gonna fucking make you see me. I think I needed everybody in the world to love me just because I wanted to get my mother to love me.
Oh my God.
I just figured eventually it will get
cry.
back to her. I was in control over what you thought of me.
Right.
And it was totally up to me. And that finally seemed fair to me.
Right.
Because I think that life didn't honestly seem that fair before that to me.
And that's when you moved to LA?
I think that's when I moved to LA.
Yeah.
He was on NBC's Last Comic Standing, and now he's traveling nationwide performing his stand-up comedy. Please welcome the very funny Theo Von.
Got a pretty crazy life, man. My father was 70 years old when I was born, 7-0. Basically make me a product of loose skin and loose morals, if you look at it like that.
We'll play games like catch or don't. And my favorite game is Dad sleeping or is he no longer with us?
Oh my God.
My dad was a unique character. My dad was 70 when I was born. Everybody knows that. So like, it gave me a lot of like cute kind of little jokes that were safe, that were pretty clean. I had like such a piece of material.
I feel like stand-up is so terrifying, dude. I don't even know what I would even do. I would just like, I'm not used to like, I've never been someone to perform in front of fucking people. So I can only imagine how stressful that might be. Also, I don't need you to really laugh at me, dude. I can't even tell a joke properly.
Material that I could tell about my dad. So it was like, I knew I could get a couple laughs.
Did that kind of start your sense of humor?
Yeah.
Then joking about your father? I mean, I know that's morbid,
Yes.
but kind of trying to make jokes at that age about your father passing away?
100%. Yeah, I just had this kind of odd, dark sense of humor where anything was game to joke about. I feel really blessed. You know, it's funny because if my dad hadn't been so old and stuff, then I wouldn't have been, been around stories.
Theo's unique upbringing gave him the material he needed to jumpstart his comedy career. However, his path to success did not come without struggle.
Did you bomb at all in the beginning?
Yeah, I've definitely bombed a few times. Yeah, it was just sometimes it's a weird crowd. Sometimes everybody doesn't do well. They had a place around the corner, the Armadillo it was called, and they had a comedy night there once a week. They had a room in the back.
How are you making money when you're working at, I mean, is he even paying you?
They call bringer shows, and you got to bring people with you. And if you don't bring like 5 people, and probably $10 to get in or something, then you have to pay the difference on the $50.
Oh damn!
Probably went about $30,000 in debt. You know.
You did?
Yeah, just had credit card debt, which was a lot of debt when you never have had, $3,000 in a bank account.
So
dude, you have to bring. Okay, in order for you to, it's kind of like you have to pay if you don't meet your end of the bargain. What the hell, bro?
all those years, are you paycheck to paycheck?
Yeah. If you do a feature weekend somewhere, you can get paid $600 for about 5 shows, but you have to buy your flight. So that takes $300. If you eat on 80, you spend everything you make on your flight. So,
man,
you go all the way there and you take your talent, but you're not really making any money.
With money running out and no
sucks.
clear path to success, Theo decided it was time to give up.
I gave up at that point. It was a point where I gave up.
Oh, you gave up on comedy at some point?
Yeah, I had this girl I was in this long-term relationship, and I went back to New Orleans and worked at a bar, and we was selling Mexican food to people, and they had a margarita machine in there, and I was working that bad boy, and just doing what I could.
Oh my god, dude. Imagine freaking Theo Von serving you drinks, dude. Theo Von. That was sick.
Guy came in.
Where's that
worked
bar
next
at?
door, and he said like one thing to me, and it just set me off.
Like treated you like a chump or something?
It was like some rich dude, some rich, second-hand generation rich or third-hand generation rich.
He says something to you.
He said something, and that night I broke the margarita machine. I set that bitch on and broke it.
Oh my
And I
god.
knew that cost him probably about $600, and that was it. And I didn't go back there, man. And I couldn't commit to the relationship I was in, and I just went back to LA.
Theo was now all in on becoming a comedian. But despite his best efforts, he'd have to face a couple more obstacles before he'd reach his big break.
I did a Netflix special that didn't do anything. Did nothing, man. I was so excited. I remember I went to Chattanooga. I'm all fired up. And I'm thinking it's going to be packed, man. And it was it wasn't even a big club. And there was 9 people in there.
Oh, that sucks.
My first Netflix special did nothing for me, man.
Oh, really?
Absolutely. Like, I remember I've told this story, but I went to Chattanooga to this show. This is my first weekend.
I feel like at that time people didn't get Theo Von. Like, his comedy was just not like people. I've never watched that special, but I just feel like people didn't get him.
There, nobody.
No way. And the special
tickets.
just came out?
Yeah.
I think Theo Von has gotten to the point where he's like just undeniable. Like, he's just undeniable with anything that he does. You know, as far as his comedy or his presence or whatever it is, right? But like, I think he's gotten as like a personality just undeniably like a presence in the world of like social media or whatever it is that he's doing, comedy and shit. And then before it's kind of like people will reject you until like the masses accept you, and to the point it's like undeniable who you are. Obviously he's super talented and he has all these like things that make him a star, right? But just before, people can't see that, you know, I feel like
20 tickets.
That's painful.
And maybe you're not even
painful,
ready,
bro.
you know?
Here's the crazy
Maybe
thing about
there's
painful,
that.
man. When most of what you know in your life feels like painful, then I think shit like that just kind of fucking fits on the shit.
Despite having a disappointing Netflix special, Theo continued to improve his craft. And not long after, he found himself on Comedy Central.
I got 3,000. I remember they gave me 3,000. Did the Comedy Central like 10 minutes or something. But then also they had all the eyeballs then. They had the eyeballs. And so, yeah, so you got a little money, and then you start to get a little notoriety from the deal. From like, you could show people, oh, I really am a comedian. That's the scariest part as a comedian. You could tell people you're a comedian, but it's a real weird thing to tell people until you have some proof that you are it, dude.
Theo was beginning to make a name for himself. Coincidentally, around the same time, a new
The Joe Rogan hit.
started
The
gaining
Joe
popularity.
Rogan hit.
One day I went on Joe Rogan's show and and on his we just talked more as a long talk, and I was like,
just to show who he is.
oh, maybe I could just do it by myself.
That was like prime Joe Rogan, bro. Prime fucking Joe Rogan, dude. If you're on Joe Rogan around that time, dude, just freaking comedy, freaking everybody just coming out, dude. Prime Joe Rogan.
Walked out of Joe Rogan's one time and I was like, oh, I want to do something more like this. I want to talk about just whatever I want to think about.
Yeah, which is...
And that's what
Podcast was such a good idea for someone like Theo, dude, just to lay who he is. Again, his personality is like everything, right? It's what creates him, what who he is, what people connect to is that fucking personality of his, dude. It's so infectious, right? So for him to just lay out, just kind of sit there and talk and kind of, you know, tell his stories and you know, say his like Theoisms and shit like that. That was a perfect thing for him to do.
That's what I started doing then. I always wanted to have my own voice, and so then I just started in my kitchen. And I say that a lot, but I literally took my kitchen to my dinner table and just made it where the studio was, and that became the studio.
Is it
the living room and stuff, but it was still like...
That's cool.
Yeah, it was cool. Okay, this is on now.
2016, Jesus.
Yeah, this past weekend, I was in Chattanooga, Tennessee. I flew back this morning to Los Angeles.
At the time, podcasting was slowly becoming more and more popular, with people like Joe Rogan showing the potential for success. But Theo didn't want to simply copy Joe Rogan's style. He wanted to create a viewing experience that was unique to him, and that's when he introduced the hotline.
What up, Mr. Theo?
I mean, a lot of people were doing hotlines.
Hey, Theo, this is Dylan Green.
Yo, Theo, what's up? It's your baby boy, Brian.
Hey, Theo, this is Alan calling from Washington State.
The special part about this past weekend wasn't just the fact that people were calling in, but it became a platform where people could openly share their deepest struggles.
Hey, what's up, Theo? My name's Miles. I was just kind of wondering on like...
and Theo battling with addiction.
And I saw you were going through a hard patch now, and I was going through a hard patch, and I just kind of want to hear, you know, what do you do to kind of see the brightness when you're standing in the dark, man?
You're not alone, brother. I lost my big brother 3 years ago, and it gets easier. I know it's hard right now, and I miss that motherfucker every day.
Although Theo was known for making people laugh, it was through these conversations where people were able to see a relatable and genuine side to Theo.
Nothing changes if nothing changes, man. I just want to remind you,
That
because
quote is
I've
amazing,
spent a
dude.
lot of time
Nothing changes if nothing changes. Ain't that the truth, dog?
in my life sitting around wanting things to change and not being able to make them change and not thinking I could. And the reason you probably feel bad is because one of the reasons could be that you actually cared. And that's okay. What would I tell my 21-year-old self? I would say ask her out. No matter who she is, whether
Dude,
she's
I feel like that picture's not real.
job or a new city or a actual person. If I'm feeling bad, that doesn't mean I'm doing bad. That doesn't mean I am bad. That doesn't mean that I can't still take some action. Because yeah, nothing changes if nothing changes, man. And then people will share stuff with me that means something to them sometimes. Like some guy came up to me this morning at the cafe and said, hey man, I got 5 years sober, and you're just so excited when you see how somebody's life gets different or better. And not that I have anything to do with that, I don't feel like I do, but just that he wants to share that with me and that he feels okay sharing it,
You have a lot of influence. It's like it actually matters whether you have your life together. You're influencing a lot of people, and then they're influencing other people. So
yeah, it's teamwork. I mean, I noticed even just starting this podcast, right? I now show up for the podcast because the listeners show up for me. It's really fascinating. It's like I'll come in at extra hours and do extra things because I want us to be a part of each other's lives.
Yeah.
With consistency, it was only a matter of time until Theo became a superstar.
We're live.
And we're back.
Yeah.
We're doing your podcast, though.
It was just undeniable.
But your thing is going really great. My son's a big fan of yours, Baron.
Really, Baron is?
Yeah.
What up, man?
What's up, man? Good to see good old Theo Von.
It's an honor,
The
man.
world
Just undeniable, dude.
loves you.
If you just keep grinding away, keep going, keep going, and you have that stardom thing, just kind of that gem or that freaking diamond in the fucking dirt, dude, or whatever, dude. You just keep freaking hitting it until you get there. Eventually, I feel like you'll end up where you need
But
to.
despite the money or the fame, what truly makes Theo special is he stayed true to himself.
You can't wait for everything to be perfect to start living your life. Somewhere a long time ago, I needed somebody and they didn't do it. And so I decided at that point, I guess, I don't need you. The only person I need is me. Like my mom never looked at me very much, or she just worked all she was gone. And my dad wasn't around. So yeah, I think I felt like nobody ever saw me. Like nobody that I care about or anything even knows who I am, Yeah. Like I would give anything, I think as a child, I'd give anything for somebody to just look at me, Like, man, if somebody would have just sat and looked at me, it's like, would I even have done this job? Sometimes I think about that.
I hope you enjoyed this
Dude.
video. I'd really appreciate it if you left a like and hit the subscribe.
Yeah, definitely watch this documentary. Go check out his channel, dude. Obviously, much bigger than I am, but still, right? Really, really good documentary, dude. It was a short documentary, but still, Theo Von is such a humongous presence, not only in the podcast space or the comedy space, just in general. Anyone can relate to him, or he might have a story that you can relate to, and that's why I really enjoy Theo Von. He's really awesome. Obviously, someone who's inspirational that I feel like I could, just keep chucking away, just keep grinding, and eventually, even if it's 10 years from now, 5 years from now, or tomorrow, is you still have the ability to kind of aim and keep succeed at what you're dreaming at, and then kind of live the dream from there. I mean, that's what I personally think. But if you enjoyed the video, make sure you hit the like button, make sure you subscribe, or don't, whatever, do whatever the fuck you want, and I'll see you guys in the next one.